There we are. Meeting going live, blah, blah, blah. Righty, looks like we might be live. Gonna check. Hopefully we are. I'm doing this solo tonight, folks, so you're gonna have to kind of bear with me a minute and make sure that we're live. Yep, we're live. Good to go. All right. Reason I'm doing this live show tonight as opposed to tomorrow night, which we will still be on Monday Night Law as scheduled. Some of the stuff I wanted to cover tonight. Yeah, as you can see, I'm always on the clock. What else is new? As it kind of relates to the language in Jefferson's, right? Probably the most asked question I get is, how the hell do you manage to pull all this crap off that you do? Well, let's do that, because this gets to the administrative stuff, right? There's two forms of entering into Congress. There's, you can ask for something or you can lay down your demands, right? So this is the process. Remember, it's section 19 out of Jefferson's. And what does that mean in the context of how do I make it like work for me and stuff? That's a good question, because there's a couple of documents that kind of go together with that. First one is this one. On the short list, there's a maxim that states everyone is the manager and disposer of his own matters. Okay, well, in order to be able to prove that you can administrate, right, and discharge things like known theft, okay, you have to know and you have to be able to comprehend, going back through history, who all has standing in the republic. Remember, there's a difference between standing at law and suits at law. I'm sorry, standing in law and suits at law. My bad. So it's a little late. I'm tired. But when you're standing in law, the employer identification number, or EIN, through that you can, when you go to the IRS website, which I'll show you momentarily here, it's this form, an SS-4. What you've done is you have claimed, right, that this corporation is your property, okay? And you can manage it however you want. So much in this, you know, going back through history, when you would do your, for example, filing your reports, okay, you know, you would end up, you know, you have to go in and announce yourself, and you'd have to go through the process, right? This is that practitioner's rise and report, judicial report. So what gives me standing to do that is being incorporated, okay? This is part of those administrative duties that we talk about. And as you can see, this form, there's not much to this. So basically you get your EIN, your identification number, okay? This will identify you, your business accounts, tax returns, and documents, right? Well, the operative word here is documents, okay? Even if you have no employees, right? Even if you don't hire anybody, the way to administrate, enter your documents onto the record is through your EIN number. This is that privilege that the liberal left is always attacking. Comes from right here. The reason it's privileged is because they're not sharing with you everything that I share with you. I used to have to do this work for them. Problem is now they don't know how to do it, so now even they have to come to me. How ironic how the tables have turned. So what you have to do is you have to keep this record, right? Keep this notice in your permanent record. This becomes part of your corporation. This is an example of an end of year report. So any business that I've conducted throughout the year, I will put in the form of a spreadsheet and itemize them, right? And make sure that everything is conducted, right? All the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, 405 errors and mistakes are corrected to the best of our ability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So that's the reason for this document, right? And this verifies that this company has paid its fees and dues and has followed the letter of the law and compliance of administrative duties, blah, blah, blah. Further identifies who you are. You're a limited liability company or LLC. May file a Form 8832. See, it even tells you what to do. Entity classification election and elect to be classified as an association taxable as a corporation. Once you've claimed this, you now have access to those taxpayer bill of rights. Okay. That's why I said this is stuff that we've never gone over on the show. You know, that history is what leads to this. So if the LLC is eligible to be treated as a corporation that meets certain tests like litmus tests, and it will be electing, right, S corporation status. It must timely file the form at 2553, elect by a small business corporation. The LLC will be treated as a corporation as of the effective date of the S corporation election and does not need to file the Form 8832 anymore. So that's basically what this says. So that's why I said this is knowing how to perform your administrative duties, right? So when it came down to when I entered in the judicial report and I made the formal announcement, as I've said here in the preface, this was kind of the hold my beer, I'll be back moment, which you guys, you know, the arrogance of the liberals. Yeah, sure, you'll figure that out. Well, I did. So now they're screwed. So anyway, point is once you've taken taken control of your corporation, it's kind of like getting in a car, right? You get in, put the keys in it, turn and fire it up, right? You can make it go and do anything you want, right? It's just, it is what it is. You own it. It's your property. Don't touch me there, right? You've heard me say that 1,000 times. So this is how I get away with constantly slapping them down. Don't touch me there. Don't touch my wife there. Don't touch my kids there. The whole 6-pillar manly firmness foot joke that everybody's still rolling on the floor over that one. So when you go through and you are going to inform into I don't care if it's an agency, government entity, it goes back to you have to announce who you are and what your standing is, right? Look, doofus, I'm not at law, I'm in law. I have that taxpayer standing, right? You're injuring a fellow servant here. No, you're not. So, and as you can see, this is your business telephone number. Best time to call, normal business hours. There's where your business hours come from, right? So we have now corrected the status. Christopher E. Hallett is doing business as E-Clause LLC. So that's the signification of this document, right? And as long as I am incorporated up until my age of retirement, right, the retirement age, I have, equitable interest in the business of the government, right? So as I perform my administrative duties, like I said, the thing I had to do was to literally solve the third pillar's problem in order to do the thing that I wanted to do, which was protect the kids from what I saw you guys going through. Thing I'm doing that's pissing everybody off, and I don't care, is I'm showing you how I did it. And I'm showing you now know why I've done it. So I'm showing you how I did it. So now that we have everything that we've got going on here, I'm going to try to keep up with comments a little bit as I can, but I know this is a late broadcast, and it's going to be for no other purposes other than just to leave here on the eClaws Facebook page. I may upload it to YouTube. We'll see what happens. But anyway, so when you take your credentials, right, and let me pull one of them up just for the sport of it here. Here we go. I'll just use this one. So it's, figures it's not going to let me do it that way. So that's fine. I bet I've got too much running here, so I'll just run it this way instead. Like I said, I wasn't prepared to go into a whole major to-do on this, but it's all right. It's doable. So, all right, we'll just do it this way. So everything that's built into this company, it's defense contracting company in law, right? There it is. I had to incorporate everything about this guy, right? Had to announce, right? Fellow servant here. Okay. There's the word, right? So there's its etymology, right? Hey, what are you doing with these benefit things, right? These benefit programs, this SMU, this crap. People ain't benefiting from this crap. The only ones benefiting from this crap are the foreign emoluments, hence the lack of definition. So remember this from the judicial report. So it was Sixth Amendment, source materials, and family history, family crest, the whole thing. And yes, so one of the reasons we're incorporated, let me blow this up so you guys can better read this. The original Continental Congress, as we remember, was dominated by the merchants. That's us, that's me, right? Providing goods and services, actual goods and services to the people, right? The beneficiaries, right? Who are supposed to be protected from all things foreign, right? And of course, you know, domestic and foreign traders, whatever. So the fact that, like I said, I know all of this and I knew it walking into it, it was a matter of, you know, this became a tactical sort of silent civil war for me. So without going into all of the, you know, the battle tactics and the strategies and all that crap that I went through, this was, again, another version of fighting another illegal foreign monopoly, right? There's the word, the foreign is not in here, but an illegal monopoly controlled by foreign emoluments, right? I knew it. Remember, I spent all of my working career on the clock all day long. I was doing business in this crap. That's why I said, you want to play Monopoly Corporation? I know the difference between pre-Reconstruction, the actual de jure republic where color of law originated, advantage, profit, and gain, right? To when we transitioned into post, right, in the free market system and established a market, margin, and capital. So in that time frame, the original republic creates these postal roads, right? Remember this from markets. So That's why I said I went through and literally beat them up over the tactical strategy, including all the math. So, but in order to do that, I had to be able to, sit down in my, like I say it all the time. I'm okay. We're playing Monopoly Corporation. I'm the car. Roll the dice. Take your chances. And that's literally this right here. So, you're going to hear, that's the corporation and that's the dead entity and da 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 da. Hey, can't beat them. Join them. Because now they have to look you in the face. And they don't want to look you in the face because they're cowards. Every one of them. Trust me. So, especially when they find out you know this better than they do. So, let me dig in a little bit to some of the postings that I was horsing around with on this earlier. And that would have been, was it chapter 58, I believe? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to pull up chapter 58 here. And remember, in order to be able to discharge your duties, you have to know the process, hence the joke on the clock, right? So if we're going to hold a meeting on anything, right, we know that there has to be a quorum present to do business. What's the procedure, right? So section 632, there's committee procedures, less formal. Okay. There is also section 633, the business of committees can be expedited by the chair preparing a schedule of measures to be heard and giving notice of sometime in advance. In a committee, all questions must be put to a vote unless agreed by general consent. So that's why I say it just depends on what subject matter and how familiar everybody is with the subject matter. Well, and when you're at work on the clock and everybody already knows all about cars, right? You don't have to agree what an alternator is. That doesn't require a vote. That's a general consent kind of a thing. So, that's why I say there's the signification and the clear distinction between how all of this stuff works and why it works as it does. So what we ended up with was we were supposed to have a bunch of mini republics, right? Corporations running around. What we ended up with was a bunch of mini monarchies, hence point to the emolument and grunt. So those mini monarchies, right? Those unelected bureaucrats that even Trump's having trouble with, right? So I said, this is nothing but that same historical garbage that's so old it's new again. They say, oh yeah, we're going to make law. We're going to make a statute, da, 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 da. Well, if the court has said statutes are not law, I don't see anywhere in either book, Mason's, Jefferson's, Roberts, Reed's, anywhere. I don't see the process for making law. That's our job. Off the clock. Don't touch me there. So, the authority. Oh, yeah. Let's cover the authority. Authority of committee with reference to measures. This is significant. The sole authority of the committee with reference to a measure is to propose such things as the committee desires to recommend. You can only make recommendations, right? And to make its recommendation concerning the action to be taken on the measure by the body. So when I say in a limited government, the limitations of the emoluments of my ops, I know what those are. I was required to know those. So a measure may be reported without recommendation, or the committee may recommend the disapproval. zoom in a little bit better on this for you. There we go. Of the measure, the committee may, of course, propose to the body any change by amendment as long as the amendments are germane to the subject of the measure. What that means is they're consistent with. You can't just go in and squirrel. It has to be consistent. It has to be unity of subject and title. That's basically what germane means. So the practice of preventing the passage of measures by leaving them in committee without taking action on them or lay them on the table in committee is well established in some legislatures. Some of them, yes. You're going to find that you're going to start seeing a lot of these idiots are going to try to lay stuff on the table. And that's what happens when they refer to it died in committee. You have to follow up with these people. Hey, motion to reconsider, right? So, and that's covered in the general motions in the front of the book. So recessing and adjournment, that's really not paramount at this point. And there's also another significant part of this I want to cover with you guys, because here it is. I made a post on my personal page about rising and reporting. So this is what committee reports are. Okay. Remember, when I'm going to rise and report, here's the process for that. It's chapter 62. So under section 633, preparation of committee reports, form of committee reports, right? You have to agree on a form and a format, right? I just said, I'm just going to use the court rules because it's easy. Authentication of committee reports, right? They have to verify that stuff, right? That's the investigation. And please don't go all nutsoid on me on this. Presentation of committee reports and committee recommendations concerning bills, right? Bills to be paid or discharged, right? Not attained. You see what I'm saying? So when we say we pay the bills, Kirk says that on the show all the time. This is what he's talking about. Amendments proposed by committees, right? Amendments to bills, amendments to discharges, some new piece of information comes up, whatever it is. Consideration of committee amendments, right? Is it something that's going to be debatable? Again, out in the private sector, we don't have to debate what an alternator is. We pretty much already knew that one. Consideration of committee reports. Now, this is significant because the report of a committee consists only of recommendations and has no force or effect until agreed by the House. This is why that business cannot be conducted without the full vote, the up and down, by the total quorum. So this is the signification of the process. So when the report of a committee is agreed to, the recommendation of the committee becomes the action of the House. Right. So when a committee report is agreed to, if any motions are necessary to carry out the purpose of the report, they should be submitted immediately. This is a lot of times this happened a lot in advertising campaigns. Companies try to push out advertising campaigns, get them out there quick. So there were constant meetings about stuff like this. Especially, and there were also multiple issues with inventory reconciliations. Oh God, I'm having flashbacks of Vietnam over that. Anyway, when the House desires more time to consider a committee report is in order to move that further consideration be postponed until a later time. So it is usual procedure not to consider bills reported by committees when the report is received by the House, but to order the bill to second reading, right? This is why I say it's got to be read more than once. You read it the first time, make sure there's no errors and mistakes. If there are errors and mistakes, it's got to go back, it's got to be redone, then resubmitted for its first reading. So the bill and the recommendation of the committee are considered when the bill comes up for a second or third reading. So, and then of course the action of the House is considering committee recommendations on measures is always directed to the bill or resolution, as to adopt amendments to pass the bill. And the action of the House is not directed to accepting or approving the report of the committee, except in the case of adopting reports of conference committees. Members of special committees, members of a special committee may vote on the question of the receiving of their own report. And it can happen. And the reason is because now you're getting into qualifications, right? If there's some specific piece of subject matter that the person voting on prepared that is part of the process. Again, if you're knowledgeable, right? He who is, worthy of office, who has taken the time to learn the laws of his country, I think is something to that effect anyway. But there's, that's one of the reasons these are those principles in law, right? Those principles that are not debatable. Those are legal maxims. So, and of course, they're referenced throughout the book in many different sections. But so you've got a presenting committee recommendations. You have reports of committees for information. This is going to happen a lot of, especially in, parliamentary inquiry process. Again, in the private sector, did anybody talk to vendor XYZ on the order for oil filters or, whatever it was, right? So, yep, got to follow up with that. Okay, let me know. Motions to adopt committee reports. This you run into again with advertising campaigns, inventory reconciliations, tax audits, capital gains tax audits, and various other audits, inventory audits. Ugh. Minority committee reports. These are oftentimes, you're going to get these from department heads, right? This is why you see a lot of times in committee, in Congress, they hold these where they have to bring in the committee or the director of a department, right? To give these minority committee reports. So those departments are technically minority committees, and they're classified that way because usually on the political spectrum of things, just because the Democrats are in power in the House, the minority committee could be controlled by a Republican or no party affiliation. Politics is actually not a requirement for a department. But improper committee reports, there's a section for this. CPS people, I want you to pay very close attention to this section right here. It is not in order for a committee to report a bill or other matter that is not considered at a properly called committee meeting. When I say cite the absence of a quorum, right, because no business can be conducted without a quorum, goes all the way back to the Magna Carta. You got to have a jury. So I'm saying, you cite the absence of a quorum, they're done. In most states, it is the duty of the presiding officer to rule out of order any report on a bill or other question when the presiding officer has knowledge that it was not considered an act upon a properly called committee meeting, right? Remember, go to the rules of a quorum. When a question of no quorum comes up, presiding officer has to call the roll. If there's not a proper quorum, the meeting is adjourned, right? That's just automatic. It is what it is. A committee consists of a quorum of the members of that committee meeting together as a committee. A paper circulated and signed by a majority of the members of a committee reporting a bill or authorizing a certain committee action to be taken in the absence of a rule authorizing that procedure is ineffective and cannot be regarded as a report if the committee because a committee can act only when convened as such. So I said there's a difference between a recommendation and a report, right? You can make recommendations that something be reported. So because you have all political power, right? This is why you go in and you cite the section on investigations, right? There's no proper quorum here. Open an investigation, find out what the hell's going on in this star chamber, right? So a bill not properly reported from a committee is not entitled to its place on the calendar and should be referred back to the committee, right? So this is what you can do. You can tie these son of a bitches up in process for decades, and they'll just eventually, you know what, just get the hell out of here. Just be done with it. So now you're getting into questioning validity of committee reports. If you have some science or something that completely negates, right, what they're doing. For example, these domestic violence marriage contracts and how they interfere in commerce, right? That's one methodology of it. That's just me on the clock. There's, of course, fundamentally and principally, wait a minute, you didn't disclose this was a domestic violence contract when we got married, right? The contract fails, hence the maxim of law that I use a lot. So then, of course, substitute measures proposed by committees. This is actually a pretty important piece. I always thought they should put this at the beginning. When a committee recommends a substitute measure, the question must first be put on any amendments pending when the measure was referred to the committee. Opportunity should be given for the amendment to both the original measure and the substitution proposed by the committee before the question on the substitution is put. Because the substitute measure is adopted, it is not subject to further amendment. So this is why I say it does require a lot of management in some of these things. So when you go in and you're constantly dropping motions and you're dropping different documents the way I do it, some things I agree with, some things I don't. For example, the whole subsidiary motion thing. Okay. We go back to, I'm going to address that one question. Somebody had a question on this a while back and I'd forgotten about the question, but now that I just remembered it, where was it? I think it was down here. It was on this subsidiary motion that I did a while back during the whole Trump impeachment debacle crap. Here it is. Remember, I entered into a parliamentary inquiry, right? Saw what they were doing. I knew, of course, what they were going to try to do, tactically speaking. That's the reason for the subsidiary motion, right? So, in so much as the language, right, Democratic Party versus Trump, I mean, you might as well call it what it is. So, again, this was why, even Pelosi at the time was like, well, I don't know if this is going to be a good idea, man. Maybe I should get my hair done. I don't know. That's just saying. So, but anyway, the whole thing about it was, look, we're here to answer a parliamentary inquiry. We're not here to play political agenda. I know you guys love to play political agenda. That was the reason for the motion, subsidiary motion number 23, to set aside their agenda, right? That's what the subsidiary motion to set aside their agenda was. Look, political question doctrine, stick to the question, okay? Unity of subject and title here. That's basically the tactical strategy behind that. So, but that was a good question. I'm glad they asked that question. That was one from Patreon, by the way. So, let me see here. I'm going to check some of the comments real quick. And hi, Danielle. How are you? Susie, Jack, Crystal. What we got? Amber, Justin. Yeah, we got quite the crowd tonight. So I'll share this in a little while, but I hope that covers the substantive nature of what on the clock is, what the procedure in committees is. So when you go in and you're actually participating in the process, right, whether it's a parliamentary inquiry or some request for some other piece of information, grievance of some form, petition, remonstrance, whatever it is, incorporation gives you standing to state your claim, or you'll hear it referred to as stake your claim, right? Hence the whole word salad thing. That's why I said, oh, this is going to be fun. So I'm going to go ahead and knock this off. I didn't want to make this extremely long, but I wanted to go through and make sure the no, my kids are at home with their mom. So what you have to do in a situation like that, right? You have to go in. We'll talk more about this on Monday Night Law, but going into and, entering into the committee, subcommittee, convene a committee. Here's a good one. Glad you brought that up, Amber. I talked about this a while back, and we never really did get much too deep into it because, well, we got squirrel, happens from time to time. So let me go into, where is it? 50 quorums, committee meetings. I think it was, is that 59? No. I'm sorry, 57. Yep, here we go. All right. This is, again, another benefit of incorporation. You have some kind of theory in law, at law, some kind of science, research and development, hence the litmus test. There happened to be a judiciary committee already established, so I didn't have to establish a special committee. But you can establish a special committee to investigate some, when it comes to in legislative assemblies, some kinds of committees are used, such as standing, conference, and special committees. Standing committees are appointed for the life of the body, and conference committees are appointed to settle differences that may arise between the bodies. A special committee is created to consider special measures or matters, or the performance of special functions as the nature of legislative business may demand. Special committees may also be named ad hoc, investigating, select, or study committees, right? So creation of membership committee, something like this, you could say, I kind of dove into the academic world a little bit, even though as much as hence Bonnie always haranguing me about, oh, you hated school, don't give me academics. So, it's what I said, it's kind of a joke, inside joke between us. But special committees can be created by resolution or motion of the body, or upon order by the presiding officer or other appointing authority, right? Remember that judicial mandate. I could have convened a special committee on that. And I said, no, we already have a judiciary committee. We don't need another one. Just, don't give me another idiotic bureaucracy. The system's already built. Let's use the one we've got. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. Well, it was, but anyway, that's why we were fixing it. But anyway, I digress. So I'm going to kind of go into, stop that real fast. And what I ended up in doing through the creation of this particular document, which I'll show you here real fast. Here it is. So to me, this was, I've read Article 4, Section 4. I know what a guaranteed Republican form of government. That's everything below, everything above the line. I used to work in one, made a living doing it. Right. So that's why when I did the math on this, right, and said, hey, you're using a mechanism that I use to discharge known theft every day, right? The -1 times -1 to discharge that known theft and put that, right, claim that write-off, put it back up here where it belongs, right? That's what's supposed to be happening. It's what we do every day at work. So explain the rest of this. Well, the answer was, you mean to tell me I got to go through and solve the riddle of the Declaration of Independence? Hold my beer, I'll be back. Well, I did just that. Here was the discovery, as I discover, right out of Black's Law Dictionary, 11th edition. My better half has said, you know what, you need to call this out. Okay, fine. I'm calling it out. Quadrant 4 of the litmus test is this definition right here. This is the body of Islamic religious law applicable to police, right? Banking, right? Those transactions, business, and what? Contracts, and these social issues, social justice warriors, Antifa, right? Any of this ringing a bell to anybody just yet? So Sharia is a system of laws rather than a codification of laws. Hence, they use titles, right? Based on the Quran and other Islamic sources. So there is your source, right? That clarifies what that is. So if you wanted a definition, there's your definition. That's your emoluments of statutable plunder, period. So this is why these are codes are only part of that. That was incorporated already, but that's those regulations, protocols, and other policy, right? Guidance policy documents, right? There's your emoluments scam. Zoom in on that little bugger for you. Well, maybe. Fine. Not going to let me zoom in on it. Didn't want to zoom in on you anyway. So anyway, when I originally did this, matter of fact, let me stop that real quick. I'll pull up the original photo of this because, again, it was kind of both the best and the worst day of my life when I actually did this. Oof. But in retrospect, I guess I'm glad I did it. Let's see. What freaking file was that in now? Oh. Is it here? Just bear with me real quick. Here it is. Okay, come on. All right. When I originally did this on the whiteboard, this was December of 2019. This was, like I posted, this was both the best and the worst day of my life. Reason I had to enter a parliamentary inquiry. Transactions can benefit, but they should not injure anyone not party to them. It's a maxim of law. So I had to explain this diversion of funds. People are supposed to be the beneficiaries with equitable interest in this Social Security fund. That was the original quid pro quo reciprocity agreement. It is what it is. Explain this diversion here, this bend. That's a stipend attached to some office. Title 4A, Title 4B, Title 4C, Title 4D, Title 4E. Notice all these things have in common? Those ill-gotten gains, those bonds transactions, right? How many of those transactions are in each one of these? God only knows. You know why? Because that banking system is underwritten. The underwriting is attached to your ass. That's the attainder, right? So I said, now, does that make sense? So these domestic violence contracts, they're calling marriage contracts. That's the scheme, scam, and fraud. So I said, when I figured this out and reported it back to the kid's mother, hey, we've both been had. Guess who else got pissed off? You thought I was bad? Oh, just saying. Anyway, so this was the, remember that interest analysis technique. If I were to put that on the whiteboard, this is what that looks like, right? You know, you say, give me a representation of what that impact analysis technique looks like. Well, I already did that. I did that in December. So it was like, oh, you mean this? yeah, that. I'm like, oh, well, again, there's your tic-tac-toe, right? So, you know, that's why I said, I mean, I've done this. I've run these models and I've run these tests so many times. I do this stuff in my sleep. Only thing I had to do was say, what are the factors? What are the variables that would be in context, right? Well, we have three, right? Three criteria. We have three elements: advantage, profit, and gain. So there's going to be at least three variations to this equation, right? Factoring out advantage, profit, and gain individually, right? In the context of the emolument. So, you know, again, the gain, set of men, exclusionary rule, hearsay, profit, fiduciary, right? Who's the fiduciary duty owed to? What's the fact pattern here? Treason is certainly self-evident. So, and then of course the advantage, right? How are you claiming integrity of process knowing that this is an authorized practice of law pursuant to the letter of the Constitution, moron? So, hence the judicial canon, and there is where they're attacking the third pillar, right there. They're claiming integrity of process through this unauthorized practice of law, right? That negative nexus between the fourth and the fifth pillar that have some sort of standing at law, right? In the admiralty, you know, hence the whole joke, drain the swamp, blah, blah, blah. And now I've got this freaking mess to clean up. Well, okay. Well, I know what that looks like. That's called discharge. So, you know, that's why I said, I was like, all right. So hence the reason why it's all mathematics, you know, hence the square root of 9 is 3, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I said that you have to be able to establish the science. You have to be able to establish clearly and show it, dictate it. So what of this had anything to do with the wife or the kids? Nothing. Not a damn thing. And thank God it happened way before her and I even met. So that was kind of the cool thing about being able to do it and kind of break that down a little bit. Hey, Tony, what's going on, dude? So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, now I'm going to go ahead and end this. You guys can go back and watch this a little bit, and we'll get it shared, that kind of stuff. So, but I hope that kind of fills in some of the blanks for you guys on the administrative duties in what taking control, right? Like putting the keys in the car, right? Hey, I control this corporation, this corpse, not you, right? Don't touch me there. That's my property, Bubba, right? So this is why this signification of I'm always on the clock. Show me when I'm off the clock. Prove it, right? So Oh, wait a minute. It would help if I were sharing that, wouldn't it? Sorry. Anyway, this is what I'm talking about when I say the on the clock stuff, right? There's on the clock right there. So you can decide technically whatever business hours you are. Show me a parent who's ever off the clock, and I'll show you somebody who's talk about derelict in their duties, but don't get me started. But anyway, that's what it means to take control of your corporation. You can do business however the hell you want to. All you got to do is go in there and say, hey, I know what my emoluments are. I'll point to it and grunt, buddy. Prove it. I can. So, and that's why I love sharing this stuff with you guys, because this is that tactical crap that I have such a good time with. So, on that note, much love, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night for Monday Night Law. Have a good night.